let me give you everything I had. And you were a billionaire's son?
Sophia, please, I only wanted to know if you loved me for me.
And what was I supposed to call it, when the man I loved turned my life into a test?
Sophia Walker had just given away 4 years of savings to save the mother of the man she loved. 3 days later, she learned his mother was perfectly healthy. Daniel wasn't poor. He wasn't even Daniel Carter. His real name was Daniel Bennett, the son of billionaire Richard Bennett and the heir to the very company where Sophia had met him pushing a cleaning cart through the hallways. But when Sophia confronted him, the first thing Daniel said was, "I needed to know if you loved me for me." Sophia looked at him, then at the empty envelope that had once held the money for her future, and asked a question Daniel could not answer. "And what exactly was I supposed to call it when the man I loved turned my life into a test?" Daniel Bennett had spent 6 months pretending to be a cleaner to find a woman who would love him without knowing his family's name. Sophia had passed every test without even knowing one existed. She shared her food when she thought he could not afford lunch. She defended him when people looked down on his job. And when he claimed his mother desperately needed help, Sophia gave him the money she had spent 4 years saving for her first home. Daniel thought that sacrifice proved he had finally found the woman he could trust. Sophia saw something else. She had trusted him enough to sacrifice her future for him while he had been watching her, measuring her, and deciding whether she was good enough. And by the time Daniel understood the difference, Sophia was gone. The strangest part was that Daniel had not planned to fall in love. At the beginning, he had only wanted an answer. After years of wondering whether anyone could see past his money, Daniel decided there was only one way to find out. He would become someone nobody had a reason to impress. But that decision would lead him to the one woman he had spent years searching for. And then through one lie he should never have told, he would nearly lose her forever. 6 months earlier, Daniel Bennett stood outside Bennett Holdings, wearing a uniform nobody had ever seen him wear before. It was plain, dark, and carried the logo of the building's cleaning contractor. In one hand, he held a mop. In the other was a small plastic bucket. Daniel looked through the glass doors at the headquarters his father had spent decades building. Every employee inside knew the name Richard Bennett. Very few knew what his son looked like. That was about to become useful. Richard Bennett had not liked Daniel's idea. He had told his son repeatedly that hiding his identity would not magically reveal the truth about people. Daniel disagreed. He believed that wealth changed every relationship before it had a chance to become real. The moment people discovered who he was, something shifted. Conversations became more careful. Interest became more intense. Invitations appeared from people who had barely noticed him before. Daniel was tired of wondering which version of him people actually cared about. The problem had started years earlier with a woman named Lauren. Daniel had believed she loved him. She had told him his money did not matter. Daniel wanted to believe her. Then one night, by accident, he overheard Lauren speaking to a friend about their future. She wasn't talking about the man she hoped to build a life with. She was talking about the life she expected Daniel's inheritance to provide. The homes, the travel, the investments, the security. Daniel stood outside the room listening to a future being planned around his family's money, and something inside him changed. After Lauren, Daniel became suspicious. He began noticing how quickly people's behavior changed when his surname entered a conversation. He dated, but never relaxed. He listened for hints about his father's wealth. He watched for signs that women were more interested after learning who he was. Sometimes his suspicions were justified. Sometimes they weren't. But eventually, Daniel stopped trusting anyone enough to find out. Richard saw what was happening. He told Daniel that fear was beginning to make his decisions for him. Daniel insisted he was simply being careful. Then he proposed the plan. He would enter Bennett Holdings under a different name and work as a cleaner. Nobody would know he was Richard Bennett's son, except a handful of executives who had been told to say nothing. He would use the name Daniel Carter. He would earn an ordinary wage. He would travel without a driver and live without the privileges that normally followed him everywhere. Richard's answer was simple. "And what exactly do you think this proves?" Daniel said he wanted to know who people really were. Richard looked at him for a long moment. "Be careful," he said. "Sometimes when you spend too long looking for proof that people will hurt you, you start becoming the person who does the hurting." Daniel remembered those words later. At the time, he ignored them. His first weeks as a cleaner taught him more about people than he expected. Employees who greeted executives with bright smiles Sometimes walked past him without acknowledging him. Some left messes behind and assumed someone else would take care of them. Others spoke to him only when they needed something removed, cleaned, or fixed. Daniel became almost invisible. And then there were the exceptions. The receptionist who thanked him every morning. An older security guard who always asked whether he had eaten. A young employee who once helped him lift a heavy box without being asked. Sophia Walker was one of those people. The first time they spoke, Daniel was struggling to push his cart through a door while carrying a bag of cleaning supplies. Sophia held the door open. Daniel thanked her and expected her to continue walking. Instead, she asked, "Are you okay? That looks heavier than it should be." Daniel smiled. "I'll survive." Sophia laughed. "That's good. I don't know your name yet, and I would feel terrible if our first meeting ended with you getting crushed by a cleaning cart." Daniel looked at her. Daniel, he said. Sophia. It lasted less than a minute. But the next morning, Sophia passed him in the hallway and said, "Good morning, Daniel." She had remembered his name. That should not have mattered as much as it did. But Daniel had spent most of his life being remembered for the Bennett name. Sophia remembered Daniel because he had introduced himself. Sophia worked in accounting. She was known for being dependable, which sounded like a compliment until you understood what it meant for her life. If someone needed help, they called Sophia. If a coworker was behind on a deadline, Sophia stayed late. If a family member needed money, Sophia tried to find a way. She had spent years becoming the person people could count on. Her mother, Evelyn, had raised her alone after Sophia's father left when she was young. Money had always been something Sophia respected because she understood how quickly it could disappear. That was why she had started saving for a home. She did not want a mansion. She wanted a small place with a front door that belonged to her. A place where she would never have to worry that a landlord might suddenly decide her future. For 4 years, Sophia saved. She worked overtime. She said no to vacations. She drove the same car long after her friends told her she should replace it. Every month, she transferred money into a separate account and tried not to touch it. That account represented something Sophia rarely gave herself permission to think about, a future where she came first. Daniel did not know any of this when they first met. He learned it slowly. One afternoon, he was sitting alone during his break when Sophia walked over carrying her lunch. She looked at the empty space in front of him. "You didn't eat?" "I'm not hungry." Sophia looked unconvinced. She opened her lunch, separated it into 2 portions, and pushed one toward him. "You don't have to do that," Daniel said. I know. "Then why are you?" Sophia shrugged. "Because I have enough." Daniel stared at the food for a moment before taking it. That was the beginning. Sophia started stopping by during breaks. Daniel learned about her mother, her job, and her dream of owning a home. Sophia learned about the carefully constructed life of Daniel Carter. He told her he was trying to improve his situation. He said his family had struggled when he was younger. He said he wanted a better future. All of it was believable. None of it was true. The more time Daniel spent with Sophia, the more uncomfortable he became with the experiment. He had planned to observe people, but Sophia was becoming someone he cared about. Sometimes Daniel thought about telling her everything. Then he remembered Lauren. He remembered what happened every time he revealed his identity too soon. So he waited. 1 week became another. Then Sophia met Vanessa Reed. Vanessa worked in the same department and had a very different view of life. She was ambitious, outspoken, and never embarrassed about wanting financial security. Vanessa believed struggling unnecessarily was foolish. She wanted a successful life, and she openly admitted that she wanted a successful partner. When she discovered Sophia was spending time with Daniel, Vanessa laughed. "The cleaner?" Sophia looked at her. "His name is Daniel. You know what I mean." "No, I don't." Vanessa shook her head. "Sophia, you're smart. You're beautiful. You work in one of the biggest companies in the city. Why are you spending your time with a man who cleans the offices?" Sophia closed the file she was working on. "Because he happens to be a good person." Vanessa smiled. "That's not going to pay a mortgage." Sophia's expression changed. "Neither is marrying someone you don't respect." Daniel overheard that conversation from the hallway. Vanessa's words hurt less than Sophia's response affected him. She had defended him when she had no idea who he really was. She had nothing to gain. In fact, she believed Daniel had almost nothing himself. That night, Daniel went home to a house Sophia would never have imagined he owned. He stood in the kitchen thinking about her words. A good person. That was how she saw him. Daniel did not realize how dangerous that was. Sophia was falling in love with the person he was pretending to be. And every day, Daniel waited to tell her the truth. The gap between Daniel Carter and Daniel Bennett became harder to cross. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Daniel and Sophia began seeing each other outside work. Daniel chose places where he was unlikely to be recognized. Small cafes, public parks, quiet restaurants. He discovered that Sophia never complained about what he could not provide because, as far as she knew, he could not provide much. One evening, they sat on a bench after walking through a park. Sophia told him about the house she hoped to buy one day. "What's the first thing you'd do?" Daniel asked. "When I finally get it?" Daniel nodded. Sophia smiled. "Paint the kitchen." Daniel laughed. "That's your dream? You saved for 4 years and the first thing you want to do is paint a kitchen?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I've spent most of my life living in places that belong to other people. I want to choose the color of my own walls." Daniel looked at her and said nothing. Sophia turned toward him. "What?" "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. For the first time, Daniel wondered whether he had misunderstood what security meant to someone like Sophia. He had assumed people who wanted money wanted luxury. Sophia wanted control over something as simple as the color of her kitchen. That was the kind of detail Daniel would later remember when he realized exactly what she had given up for him. Their relationship deepened. Sophia met Daniel after work. She called him when something funny happened during the day. He helped Evelyn carry groceries and fix a loose cabinet in her apartment. Daniel and Sophia began talking about the future, although Daniel always became uncomfortable when the conversation moved too close to his own. Sophia noticed. "Why don't you talk about your family?" she asked one night. Daniel looked away. "There's not much to say. Everyone has something to say about their family," Sophia thought, but she did not push him. That was another mistake Daniel would later regret. Sophia respected the boundaries he created. Instead of rewarding her trust with honesty, he used her patience as more time to hide. Then Richard Bennett became ill. It was not a serious emergency, but Daniel received a call that his father had been taken to the hospital for tests. Daniel left work quickly. Sophia noticed how worried he looked and asked what had happened. This was Daniel's chance. He could have said, "My father is in the hospital, and I need to tell you something about who I am." Instead, he panicked. "My mother isn't well." Sophia immediately asked whether he needed help. Daniel said no. She asked whether he needed money. Daniel said absolutely not. But the following morning, Sophia arrived with an envelope. Daniel looked at it. "What's this?" "Help." "Sophia, I told you." "I know." She placed the envelope in his hand. Daniel opened it. Then his face changed. The amount was far more than he expected. Sophia explained that she had taken it from her savings. Daniel stared at her. "Your house savings?" Sophia nodded. Daniel tried to give it back. Sophia refused. "Daniel, if your mother needs help, take it." "She doesn't." Sophia looked confused. Daniel corrected himself immediately. "I mean, I don't want to take your money. You aren't taking it from me. You're borrowing it." "Sophia, 4 years from now, I can keep saving. Your mother might not have 4 years. Daniel looked down at the envelope. Richard Bennett was receiving some of the best medical care money could buy. He was not even seriously ill. Daniel knew that. Sophia didn't. And still Daniel accepted the money. That was the moment everything changed. Until then, Daniel's lie had been selfish. From that moment on, it became cruel. Sophia believed she had helped the man she loved survive a family crisis. Daniel told himself he would return the money soon. Tomorrow, next week, when he found the right moment. But there is rarely a right moment to confess after accepting a sacrifice you never needed. Sophia trusted Daniel more after that. She believed she had stood beside him during the worst moment of his life. Daniel could barely look at the envelope without feeling ashamed. And yet he kept the secret. At this point, Sophia believed she knew Daniel. She knew his habits, his favorite food, the stories he had told her about his childhood. She knew the version of his life he had given her. What she did not know was that almost every unanswered question about Daniel had an answer waiting inside the same building where they had met. Vanessa found it first. One evening, Vanessa stayed late finishing a report. As she walked toward the elevator, she saw Daniel enter a restricted executive hallway. She stopped. Cleaners had access to certain areas. But this floor was different. Richard Bennett's office was located there. Vanessa watched Daniel approach the door. Richard's executive assistant saw him, smiled, and opened the office. Daniel walked inside. Vanessa stood completely still. Something was wrong. The next morning, she began searching online. At first, she found nothing useful. Then she found an old business article. Richard Bennett had attended a charity event with his son. There was a photograph beneath the article. Vanessa zoomed in. Daniel, not Daniel Carter. Daniel Bennett. Richard Bennett's son. Vanessa searched again. More photographs appeared. More articles. The same face. The same man Sophia had been dating. For several minutes, Vanessa sat staring at her phone. Then she smiled. Suddenly, everything made sense. The strange access, the confidence, the executives who seemed to recognize Daniel, the cleaner who somehow understood the company's operations better than most employees. Vanessa's opinion of Daniel changed instantly, and that was exactly what Daniel had spent 6 months trying to avoid. Vanessa became unusually friendly. She brought Daniel coffee. She asked about his weekend. She found reasons to stop him in the hallway. Sophia noticed. "What happened to the cleaner?" she joked. Vanessa smiled. "People can surprise you." Daniel didn't understand what Vanessa knew until she approached him privately. She held up her phone. Daniel looked at the photograph. His face changed. Vanessa watched him carefully. "Interesting family," she said. Daniel's voice became quiet. "What do you want?" Vanessa smiled. "I haven't decided." Daniel told her to stay away from Sophia. Vanessa's smile disappeared. "Why? Afraid she'll find out?" Daniel said nothing. Vanessa stepped closer. "You know, Daniel, I always thought Sophia was making a terrible decision." Daniel stared at her. "Now I'm wondering if she's the luckiest woman in the building." That was when Daniel understood the full danger of his secret. Vanessa was not just threatening to expose him, she was already proving his worst fear. Her behavior had changed the moment she learned he was wealthy. But Sophia still did not know. Daniel decided he would tell her. He made the decision 3 separate times. In 3 separate times, fear stopped him. Then Sophia overheard Vanessa and Daniel arguing. Vanessa accused him of lying. Daniel told her to leave him alone. Sophia asked what was happening. Daniel looked at the woman who had given him 4 years of savings and said, "Nothing." Sophia believed him. That answer would haunt him. A few days later, Vanessa finally decided she was tired of waiting. She approached Sophia at work. "There's something you need to see." Sophia frowned. "If this is about Daniel..." "It is." Vanessa showed her the photograph. Sophia laughed. "That looks like him." "It is him." "No. His name is Daniel Bennett." Sophia's smile disappeared. Vanessa opened another article. Then another. Sophia stared at the screen. She remembered the executive hallway. She remembered the unanswered questions. She remembered Daniel's strange knowledge of the company. Then she remembered the envelope. The money. Sophia's face went pale. "Ask him about his mother," Vanessa said. Sophia left work early. She went home and placed the phone on her kitchen table. Then she opened her laptop. She searched Daniel Bennett. The truth appeared immediately. Richard Bennett's son. Bennett Holdings heir. Business executive. Sophia sat back slowly. Then she looked at the envelope on the table. It was empty. Daniel had her money. Money he never needed. Sophia called him. "Can you come over?" Daniel heard something in her voice. "Are you okay? Just come over." When Daniel arrived, he saw the photographs before Sophia said a word. He stopped. Sophia was sitting at the table. The envelope was beside her. Daniel closed his eyes. "Who are you?" Sophia asked. He sat down. Then Daniel told her everything. Lauren, the fear, his father, the cleaning job, the name Daniel Carter. Sophia listened without interrupting. Daniel explained that he had wanted to find someone who cared about him without knowing he was wealthy. Sophia finally spoke. "When did you know?" Daniel looked confused. "When did you know I wasn't using you?" Daniel's eyes lowered. "The first time you shared your lunch with me." Sophia stared at him. "And after that?" "When you defended me." "And after that?" Daniel knew what she was asking. "When you gave me the money." Sophia became quiet. "So you knew." Daniel said nothing. "You knew I cared about you, and you still kept lying." "I was going to tell you." "When?" Daniel had no answer. Sophia picked up the envelope. "I worked 4 years for that money." "I know." "No. You don't." Daniel looked at her. Sophia's voice began to shake. "I said no to things I wanted. I worked when I was tired. I kept telling myself it would be worth it because one day I would finally have something that belonged to me. Daniel reached for her hand. Sophia pulled it away. I gave that to you because I thought your mother needed help. Daniel whispered, I'm sorry. Sophia looked at him. Was she sick? No. Did she need the money? No. Did you need it? No. The room became silent. Then Sophia asked the question Daniel would remember for the rest of his life. Was I ever anything more than a test to you? Daniel looked at her with tears in his eyes. I loved you. Sophia nodded slowly. Maybe you do, but how am I supposed to know which moments were real and which moments you were standing there judging me? Daniel tried to explain. Sophia stopped him. You spent 6 months trying to find out if I could love you without your money, but you never stopped to ask whether I could trust you after your lies. Daniel had spent his life afraid of being used. Sophia had spent her life being used for her kindness. And somehow, Daniel had become another person who took from her while calling it love. Please, Daniel said, give me a chance to fix this. Sophia shook her head. You can return the money. I will. But you can't return the reason I gave it to you. Daniel said nothing. Sophia stood. Please leave. Daniel wanted to fight for her. He wanted to tell her that everything after a certain point had become real. But Sophia was right. He had found the woman he was searching for. Then he had made her question whether the relationship she believed in had ever existed at all. Daniel left. The next morning, he returned to Bennett Holdings as Daniel Bennett. No uniform, no bucket, no false name. The reaction was immediate. People who had ignored him for months suddenly greeted him warmly. Employees who had barely looked at him wanted conversations. Vanessa tried to speak to him. Daniel walked past her. For the first time, he saw exactly what his experiment had taught him. But the lesson was useless compared with what it had cost. Daniel returned Sophia's money immediately. He did not add extra money to it. He knew she had not sacrificed for a reward. He sent back exactly what she had given him. Along with it, he wrote one sentence. You were never the one who needed to prove anything. I was. Sophia did not respond. Weeks passed, then months. Sophia returned to work and accepted a promotion she had almost turned down. The old Sophia would have worried about the extra responsibility. The new Sophia had started asking herself a question before making decisions. What do I want? It was a question she had spent years avoiding. Sophia still helped people. She still cared. But she began recognizing the difference between generosity and abandoning herself. She restarted her savings. Then she started something else. Using her accounting experience, Sophia began helping small businesses manage their finances on weekends. She enjoyed it. One client became two became 5. Sophia worked late nights, built relationships, and slowly developed a reputation she told almost no one at Bennett Holdings. This time she wanted to build something quietly. Meanwhile, Daniel changed too. He stopped looking for proof that people could hurt him. Richard noticed. One evening, father and son sat in Richard's office after everyone else had gone home. Do you regret it? Richard asked. Daniel looked at him. The experiment? Oh, Richard nodded. Daniel thought about Sophia. Yes. Richard waited. Daniel continued. It showed me what I wanted to know, but I asked the wrong question. What was the wrong question? Daniel looked through the window. I kept asking whether someone would love me without my money. I should have been asking whether I knew how to love someone without making them afraid. Richard said nothing. Then Daniel remembered the warning his father had given him 6 months earlier. Sometimes, when you spend too long looking for proof that people will hurt you, you become the person who does the hurting. Daniel finally understood. Almost a year after Sophia asked him to leave, Bennett Holdings announced a new partnership. Daniel attended the meeting as part of the executive team. He walked into the conference room and stopped. Sophia was standing at the front. For a moment, neither of them moved. Sophia's small consulting business had grown, quietly, slowly, one client at a time. Her company had developed a reputation for helping businesses stabilize their finances and plan for growth. Bennett Holdings wanted to work with her. Daniel sat through the meeting without interrupting once. Sophia was confident, calm, professional. She was not the woman he remembered from the cafeteria, worried about whether she could ever afford a home. She had built something, and she had built it without him. And after the meeting, Daniel asked if they could talk. Sophia looked at him. Then she nodded. They met at a quiet cafe. Daniel did not ask for forgiveness. He did not ask for another chance. He simply apologized. Not because he expected anything, because he finally understood exactly what he had done. Sophia listened. Then Daniel asked, "Are you happy?" Sophia smiled. "Yes." Daniel nodded. For a moment, that seemed to be enough. Then Sophia said something unexpected. "I forgave you." Daniel looked up. Sophia continued, "It took a long time. I understand. But forgiveness isn't trust." Daniel nodded again. "I know." Sophia looked at him carefully. "Do you?" Daniel did not rush to answer. "I do now." There was no dramatic reunion that night. Sophia did not suddenly forget what had happened. Daniel did not suddenly become the perfect man. Trust did not return because of one apology. It returned slowly. Daniel answered questions he had once avoided. He stopped hiding behind the excuse of protecting himself. Sophia stopped pretending that she was never hurt or never needed anything from anyone. They began again carefully. As two people who knew exactly how easily love could be damaged when fear entered the room, months passed before Sophia agreed to call it a relationship again. Daniel never pressured her. That was the difference. Before, Daniel had wanted Sophia to prove she was safe. Now he understood that he had to prove he could be trusted. Vanessa eventually learned that Sophia's business was succeeding. She also learned that Daniel and Sophia were spending time together again. "After everything?" Vanessa asked. Sophia smiled. "After everything." Vanessa shook her head. "I still don't understand you." Sophia's smile remained. "I know." Daniel had pretended to be a cleaner because he wanted to find a good wife. In the end, Sophia had shown him exactly what he wanted to know. She loved him when she believed he had nothing. She respected him when other people looked down on him. She sacrificed for him when she believed he needed help. But Daniel had made one mistake that nearly destroyed everything. He believed that finding the right woman would solve his problem. It didn't. Because the right woman could still walk away when the man she loved made her question whether anything between them was real. Sophia could have loved a cleaner. Sophia could have loved a billionaire. What she could not love was a lie. And Daniel eventually learned something money had hidden from him for years. Trust is not discovered by secretly testing another person. Trust is built when you give someone the chance to know who you really are and they still choose to stay. So what would you have done if you were Sophia? Would you forgive Daniel after giving him the savings you spent 4 years building, only to discover that he never needed a single dollar? Or would his decision to test you be something you could never move past? And if you were Daniel, would you ever hide your wealth to discover whether someone truly loved you? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about love, betrayal, sacrifice, and the moment people finally realize the value of someone they nearly lost, subscribe for more stories like this.